everybody, today I'm going to be showing you how to replace the suspension arms on one of your Arrma 4x4 vehicles. I'm going to be upgrading to RPM because they have extra adjustability, better flexibility, and then they also have a lifetime warranty. Now you don't have to upgrade like I am. The same process applies if you're just replacing your suspension arms, but honestly these RPM arms are going to be a great upgrade, so without any further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so before we actually install these, I want to let you guys know, each set of A-arms comes with, of course, both the A-arms you're going to need, a set of either front or rear arms, 2 screws, because these guys use a different style than the stock setup, and we'll get to that when we are pulling out the old arms, the all-important decals, instructions, and then this tag you want to keep because it's part of your proof of purchase if you ever need to warranty these parts because of their lifetime warranty. So I went ahead and installed one of the RPM A-arms, and I'll show you how to do it here in just a second. But I wanted to show you what I mean by the adjustability here. So you can see the stock arm just has one hole for the lower shock mount. The RPM A-arm has 2 holes here. Now this inner hole is going to be basically just like the stock one. The outer hole basically lowers the truck a little bit, lowers the center of gravity, and also gives the suspension arm a little bit less leverage on the shock there, so you have a different ride quality, a bit stiffer. That's what I wanted, so I went ahead and put it in that setting. If you want your stock ride, just put it on the inner one and you'll be good to go. Now, on to how to install the arm. So, just like most other repairs, the first step, of course, is going to be disassembly. So with our 7mm socket here, we're going to go ahead and loosen up this wheel nut. These ones are on pretty tight. There we go. Of course, once that knot's off there, we can go ahead and pull the whole wheel off, set it aside, and then the next one we're going to want to take off is this bolt right up here that pins this upper link in. I believe it is a 2mm. There we go. With the correct tool in hand, go ahead and unthread this screw. Once you get it out far enough, usually you can unthread it by hand. And doing things by hand, unless you have a drill, is usually faster than trying to do them with the tool the whole way. Now there is another screw down here, and then a suspension pin that goes through. This screw right here is going to hold in the suspension. It's a very short screw in this case. This screw you won't be needing again because the way that the RPM arms are designed is pin goes through here and the screw goes in the end. Rather than having an offset screw, it's an inline screw and it includes the screw that you need to do so. So once you have that screw out, there should be a hole along this side here which you'll want to insert a tool to push out the pin. Now most of the time you can get away with a 1.5mm hex. What I've got here is a 0.5mm, and that's because my suspension is pretty beat up, but most of the time you should be able to stick a 1.5 hex or flathead in this hole right here and begin to tease the pin out. Sometimes it will take a little bit of persuasion. But once you've got it out far enough, you can grab it usually with a set of pliers. For example, these fancy ones that I got here, and then just pull the pin right out. I'm going to keep on struggling with this off camera. We'll get back to you when I've got this thing finished. Alright, there we have it, with that pin finally wrestled out of there. Make sure you don't lose it, because you will still need this pin, and for that matter, the pin that's on the inside here, which I'll show you how to get to here in a moment. But first, we're going to swing this entire front suspension assembly out of the way just like that, axle and all. No need to remove it right now. And then, next we're going to remove this bottom screw here, which requires a 2mm hex driver. And this screw is going to have a washer on the inside. You want to make sure you don't lose that washer because it is important. Just like that, and you can see the washer is on the screw still there. Set that aside, and then for simplicity's sake, I'm actually going to go ahead and remove this here. We're going to take the screw and all these pieces and set them aside just like that. Now we want to tip the truck up just like this. Right, now moving on to the bottom of the vehicle here, you can see we got two screws that hold on this bottom skid plate. This skid plate does need to come off so we can get to the suspension pin. Basically we'll do the same maneuver we did with the outer pin there. Just grab the end with a set of pliers and yank it out. But first, this skid plate's got to come off. There's, like I said, these two screws, and then one more screw that holds in this sort of hinged front bumper here. These two screws are both 2.5, and then the one that's in the bumper is a 2. We're going to start by removing these two screws here. This first one here that's a cap head, which is closer to the back, is a pretty short screw. There we go. Pretty short, as you can see. And then this one here is very long. It goes almost all the way through the front bulkhead. It's also going to be pretty dang tight. Now I'm not going to make you sit through watching me unthread this whole thing. So once I've got this screw out and the one that hinges in the front bumper there, we'll come back to you and we'll show you the next step. Okay, so with those screws now taken out, you can pretty much just pull this guy out of here. There are a couple tabs in the back here. There are a couple tabs in the back here that kind of slot in like that, so you'll need to pull it out and away like this. And then with that off, now spinning more towards the front here, there's going to be two screws that hold in this bulkhead tie bar. You want to take that off, and then you can grab the suspension pin right there with your pliers. And these guys are 2mm screws. These ones aren't quite as long, but they are going to be in there pretty tight. Alright, and with those screws taken out, it's very easy to just pull that bulkhead tie bar off. And then, back at it with the pliers here. Grab the end of that pin and shimmy it out. This one typically comes out a bit easier there. And then out with that, and in with the new one. And then installation is going to be the reverse of disassembly here. And in my case, I'm going to use a little bit of lubrication when I insert this pin here. There we go. And then lubricating the pins before you insert them is going to make them both easier to insert. It's going to make me eat my words now. And then it'll also lubricate the joint so that it rides smoothly after it's all installed. Alright, so once you've fought that pin in there, you can go ahead and put the bulkhead tie bar back on, thread the screws back in, put your skid plate back on, redo all the stuff you undid up here, and then you're ready to move on to the back. And I'll show you how to do the back here once I've got my front end put back together. Alright, so moving on to the rear here, it's going to be incredibly similar but with a few key differences here. So first we're going to start by taking out this screw right here. It is a 2mm. It's one of the short screws. It's an offset screw for holding in suspension pins. Alright, and once that's out, we can use actually the same 2mm to start to push the suspension pin out the other side, so we can grab it with our pliers and pull it out. Alright, we've got that pushed out now. Grab it with our pliers here. Slowly tease it out until we can get our fingers on it and just pull it right out like that. Alright, once that's out, got another 2mm screw here at the bottom. Holds on your shock. And once again, make sure you don't lose the washer there. Alright, and then you'll have this same assortment of 2.5mm, 2.5mm, then two 2mm screws holding in right here. As you can see, I've gone ahead and removed those already, so this is ready to come off. Bulkhead tie bar, same as the front here, two 2mm screws holding it on. So we'll go ahead and pull that guy off. Once again, I've already removed the screws on it. And then once those are out, should be able to grab the inner suspension pin here again with a set of pliers, tease it out until you can grab it with your fingers, and then it'll slide right out. Just like so. And then go ahead and remove the suspension arm and throw the new one in, and away you go. Alright, getting things put back together here. Let's go ahead and slide the inner pin in here first. Takes a little bit of finagling. But once you get it in far enough, you can persuade it with a few taps. Keep on pushing it in there. Alright, and with that pin put in there, we're ready to put the bulkhead tie bar back on, throw the screws in there, then we can put the skid plate back on, put the screws in their appropriate places, screw these two screws in here, finish assembling the suspension up here, put our tire back on, and we're ready to rip. Alright, so there you have it. That's how you install RPM A-arms on your Arrma 4x4. For example, this is a Senton here. Gives you a bit more adjustability, slightly lighter weight, and big thing for me, lifetime warranty. If you ever manage to break these, which I highly doubt you will, they'll send you a new replacement part. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. Thanks for watching.